that they're economic migrants, okay? And this is to answer your question. I mean, nobody is going to take their kids for hundreds or thousands of miles, carrying them on their back, right? Risking death for purely economic reasons, right? So I think we have to differentiate between single young people coming, who I think can legitimately be said they're coming for economic reasons, and families that are coming at great risk where it's more than that. Which doesn't mean it's not, I mean, there are many factors, but they're fleeing the violence, okay? And they're fleeing for their lives, yes. Bob, all right, so Bob, and then Mark, and then Roz.
Is the Mexican government doing money to help these people? Or is that the border war after border?
Yes, they are. I mean, they are providing resources. And this is another area where it becomes complicated, because in certain areas, frankly, the Mexican government is saying, we could use you in Mexico, right? Even in Mexico, they have a labor shortage, right? And many of these people say, but we don't want to go to Mexico. We want to go to the United States, right? Which undermines, frankly, their claim for asylum, right? Because they could stay in Mexico. Having said that, there's no safe third country agreement between the United States and Mexico, right? I mean, the fact that Mexico is willing to take you by U.S. law does not vitiate your ability to claim asylum in the United States. All right, if we reached an agreement with Mexico, it could. I think under present circumstances, that's unlikely, right? Given comments that the current president has said about Mexicans, right? I think that they're not inclined to do them any favors. But it could happen. But you know, in Tijuana, there's a labor shortage. Okay, so and you saw, I showed, you know, you can apply for a humanitarian visa to stay in Mexico as well, but they frankly would rather come to the United States. Yeah. Mark.
Would an updated Monroe Doctrine alleviate the problem where the United States would give economic aid to those countries in Central America to help them get their status?
I don't want to say Monroe Doctrine, but yes, I think that, I mean, I said that, right? That the best solution to this situation is not remain in Mexico. It's remain in Honduras, remain in El Salvador, remain in Guatemala, right? That and we have to contribute to that, right? I mean, we have to contribute to that as the richest country in the hemisphere, right? We have to contribute to making it possible for people to stay where they are. And most people would prefer to stay where they are, right? If life was livable. Yeah, Roz.
Is there any type of program, for instance, when my parents came right after the war, we needed some sort of a sponsor,
Right.
someone who guaranteed that you would have a home and a job and someone who would help you. Is there anything like that for these immigrants?
You know, I'm not an immigration, Mike.
Yeah, so,
Mike knows.
So the U.S. government has policies about immigration and has had for 100 years, or I don't know. And the way it works today, in every country there's an embassy, the U.S. embassy, but there's also a consulate. And the consulate receives, there's lines around most, in the developing world, there's a line around the block 3 or 4 times at 6 o'clock in the morning. And these are people that say, I want to go to the United States. And the poor junior officer in the Foreign Service has the job of making these life decisions for these hundreds of people every day. And there's a bunch of junior officers in bank teller windows, and they just keep, and they average maybe 3 minutes a case. And what they look for is, if I gave you a visa to visit the Statue of Liberty, you only want a tourist visa, haha. what's the odds on you coming back to your country? Do you have more to lose or to gain by coming back here? So do you own property, do you own a car, do you have a family that's still here? That sort of question. And so for a tourist visa, you have to show that the odds are that you're gonna come back. But if you are honest and you say, I really want to migrate, I want to live in the United States, they will ask, how do you propose to live? Because part of their job is not to add to the drain on the U.S. taxpayer because of the safety nets that we have in place to support people who can't support themselves. So you have to show that you have the resources or the connections or whatever, so that you can do well if you went to the United States. It's harder to get a resident visa, a permanent visa, from a developing country than it is to get and it's also hard to get a tourist visa, I mean, because it's hard to tell the one from the other. But this is where people are supposed to go. I'm not going to defend for a moment everything the rabbi said is true and accurate and worthy of our full attention. But the process is supposed to start in their country, and they're supposed to ask, can I come? And they're supposed to be told in those 2 or 3 minutes, no, you can't. And that's supposed to be where it ends. And Bobby and I lived in the Dominican Republic, and Erev Thanksgiving, the line went around the block 7 times, because I hear there's a holiday and they're going to give visas. So, it's just how life is. But if we make it so that the people in Nogales are taken care of really nicely, and once they're there, if you made it this far, come on over. We'll deal with you in 5 years, but come on into the States and we'll worry about it later. Then there are millions of people waiting. It's what do they? I mean, it's they're watching. People are watching to see what's happening.
You're absolutely.
And I believe, to be a little bit cynical, I believe this whole separation policy was not an accident and it wasn't stupidity.
No.
I believe that it played really bad among them in their country, such that the risks suddenly got a lot higher.
Right, but there are still people coming.
And it became less desirable. I mean, it was, you really had to think 3 times before you brought your kids thousands of miles and then lose them.
But people are still coming, and you may think, and I might even agree with you, that the law as it stands now, which says all you have to do is show up at a port of entry and say credible fear, so DHS doesn't like that law. Well, too bad. I mean, get a change of the law through Congress, right? That's the way the process works, right? And if Congress won't change the law, then that's the law, and we don't have exceptions because the president doesn't like the law or doesn't think it makes sense, right? So change, and I might even agree with you, but in answer to your question, so when people come as refugees, they have sponsors. Highest, right, which probably sponsored your parents, is still sponsoring refugees, although now mostly non-Jewish refugees.
When my parents came, it was way easier for them than it is for people from Central America.
But people who claim asylum is not the same thing as a refugee. But there are a couple of other facts to consider, right? That the number of people crossing illegally is 25% of what it was at its height in 2000. Okay, also the majority of people who are here illegally did not come through a port of entry or over a wall. They came legally in an airport on a tourist visa and then overstayed. Okay, and they're not all Latino either. I mean, how many of you have been in Montgomery Mall in Bethesda and somebody's standing at a kiosk and said, Can I ask you a question? Right? They're Israelis, right? They are all here illegally. They came here legally on tourist visas. They are working illegally. Many of them are overstayed. Why is there no crisis about all the illegal Israelis? Okay, I mean,
That's why Israel's not
right? So you know, this is a fact too. Tom.
I'm just saying, if an illegal alien wants to take my job, he can have house or care.
Thank you, Tom.
Can we make sure the kids
Just trying to be liberal here.
I also, by the way, want to thank everybody who brought, this is overwhelming amount of stuff. I may be boxing up for a while. If people would like to help me box up, that would be great.
How long will you be collecting?
I think you have enough right there.
No, let's say another month.
Oh, a month.
Another month. If you,
We'll have a box in the office.
right, we'll have a box in the office. If you have boxes, I need boxes. If you want to, I mean, also, look, if you want to donate to pay for shipping costs, then write the check, Kehilat Shalom, Rabbi's Discretionary Fund, and note shipping cost. Okay, if you would rather the money go directly to Kino Border Initiative, note Kino Border Initiative. Okay, if you don't care, right, and then I'll use it for either of those two things, depending on which I think is, you know, more important. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment and question.
Okay.
So the family that you said that he was illegal and was deported, so his family didn't, I actually know a family that happened to. 13 years ago, he said, you're deported, family said, we're gonna go in, but in 10 years, you can apply. to
Right.
come back. And so that's what they did. Family left 10 years, 3 years ago, they applied to come back. And
Right.
they were able to do it. because
Yeah,
They
no.
followed the,
Right.
what's going on with that, or,
Right, now, and if, look,
like, I'm not sure what's going on with him specifically, or.
no, I mean, the issue is that where they are from is unlivable, right? I mean, if he had been deported from the Yucatan or from Guadalajara or Mexico City, that wait 10 years and reapply could have been feasible, right? And chances are that's what they're gonna wind up doing. They're gonna, because he's not gonna get asylum. I mean, not gonna, I'm sure he already did it. Okay, so either they'll stay in Nogales or they'll relocate somewhere else in Mexico and they'll wait the 10 years and then he'll reapply, absolutely. Absolutely, I'm sure that that's what will happen, because I'm sure he's not gonna get asylum. And then this is the last question.
Oh, I'm on it, okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that you figured, when you said 3 to 5 years that they've got to have an ankle bracelet? And is that here or in Mexico?
No, here,
So what, they can't work here?
No, they can.
Can they legally
they're
work?
given work permits.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I was gonna
And
say,
then-
what if you do for years?
No, they give work permits.
They get work permits,
Because
okay.
they're here legally, they're here provisionally, but legally.
And they do allow for work permits, okay.
It's, you know, it's similar to KPS.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.